It's a story that most are familiar with. In some shape or form, though some say it's a myth. A man dead, now alive, no medical intervention, is bound to capture the whole world's attention. But give me a minute to take you back to that day, that first Sunday morning we now celebrate. There had been crowds gathered just 3 days before. Some loved him, some loathed him. All were searching for more. Through turmoil and trial, they'd watched him endure. Innocents accused, some accusers unsure. He'd struggled on the road, flesh open, blood red. He carried the cross meant for you and I instead. For the joy set before him, he made this decision, setting the scene for a historic collision. Then they'd watched as he'd been nailed to a cross, begging Jehovah to spare them this loss. See, as long as he was alive, the disciples had hope, but now here he was at the end of his rope. Sword pierced side, blood and water flowing down, and on his head, thorns for a crown. Thump, thump. Then the line went flat. In everyone's mind, this was the final act. There wasn't even time for the die to stop rolling where the soldiers had been gambling for his clothing. Now, 3 men had hung on crosses that day. A criminal, a prodigal, and our Savior, the way. The way, the truth, the life's what he said. But how do we believe that when our Messiah is dead? He hadn't shown glory, at least not like expected. He hung there by man and by God, now rejected. The devastation was felt as those close to him fell, knees weak, hearts weaker, a traumatic farewell. Consumed by grief as the thunderclouds churned in their hearts an empty chasm where hope had been burned. Those looking on at the ominous sight trembled, knowing something wasn't right. The skies that had held the sun's light so bright turned on a dime as day flipped to night. In the temple, not even 2 miles away, the curtain was torn, Holy of Holies displayed. Never before had all sins been dismissed when nails had pierced both ankle and wrist. The deed was done. The disciples all scattered, giving up hope for the one thing that mattered. James, John, and Mary, others not named, walked from Golgotha. This was not what they prayed. His body was laid for 3 days in a tomb while his followers mourned his death final, they assumed. Sun rising on the horizon on the morn of day 3, Mary walked to the grave, still carrying her grief. She neared the place where the boulder had been, sealing her Savior, her friend, within. What she saw next gave her the shock of her life. No stone at the entrance, no Jesus inside. She ran to tell others, and they raced to the site. No body, only linens, but that tomb been airtight. It'd be easy to scoff, say the body had been taken, but that tomb was sealed. Those accounts are mistaken. No Chuck had shown up to wrestle the seal. No Norris was needed to finish this deal. The angels had rolled what seemed to seal fate right into oblivion. Our Savior wasn't late. He'd shown up on time. He told them 3 days. Yet when he met the disciples, they still were amazed. But the grave couldn't hold him. He rose from the dead, breaking chains of bondage just as he'd said. He'd kept his word. He'd risen from death. He showed them his scars. They saw him with breath. An eternal witness to a love that invites all, no matter your language or age, big or small. If you open the word, take time, read the story, you'll encounter this love boundless in its glory. But what does this mean for you and for me? What does it offer all humanity? Because we need more than theology from a book on a shelf. We need Jesus to change us, to show us himself. And we're now made right. Our Savior chose to die. He's the now and forever eternal sacrifice. I don't know about you, but I came here today. No blood to pay penalties, no thing in the way. I get to meet God right here with each of you because we've been made right by suffering he went through. We worship together the one who calms chaos. we follow his lead. He's not here to obey us. And this day that we gather to celebrate he's risen is a relief to embrace, is a gift we've been given. From the cross to the grave, then risen above, resurrection reminds us of unconditional love. From a tale of betrayal, of pain and strife, through it all emerged new life. For him and for us, if we choose him as Lord, if we submit our will as his children adored. With him we're survivors of loud and silent wars. Through him we're admitted through heaven's doors. And what started with a cross, a symbol of pain, ends in a triumph, breaking every chain.